When you don't make the wave a problem, then you are the wave. And when you are the wave, you are the ocean. And when you are the ocean, there's no you that it is anything or is not anything. Just oceanic being. So happy Saturday, happy retreat. When we start a weekend like this, we often have some energy in the headspace coming out of the busy week, also known as thoughts, also known as a habitual or habituated tendency for energy to move up into consciousness. So we'll begin by exploring this space, the headspace, the space of consciousness, the space of thought. So just take a moment to notice the way it feels in the space of the head, in the space of the mind, in the space of the textures of your life, all of the memories, all of the recent challenges, all of the recent problems that you've been solving or navigating, all the recent solutions you've come up with. All of these textures are various textures of thought. And they have their place here. We're not trying to reject anything. So what we're doing is we're attuning to this space of the textures of your life as you know it, the narrative of your life. And we're attuning to it in such a way that we don't have to manage it now, here. Perhaps during the weekdays when we're busy and working and problem solving, we feel like we have to manage that inner world, solve the problems out of time, think about the future, think about the past. And that may or may not be necessary, but here, in this moment, we can experiment. Look into whether it's possible to completely set that tendency or that feeling like we need to control, to manage situations, problems, relationships. We can just set it aside. Set aside that need to have it right, figure it out, find the position, find the right view. These thoughts can come, these thoughts about what's right, what's wrong, where I'm going, where I came from. And we can also notice that it's an added on feature of experience that we believe we have to do something with that. We have to push it, pull it. More of this, less of that. Picking this, choosing that. Picking me over you. My view over your view. The views conform in thought, as thought. And we don't have to pick and choose. We don't have to take sides. We don't have to buy in to anything beyond the texture of the rising thought now. So all of that is really just saying we can approach this moment, this exploration of consciousness and thought, with no agenda whatsoever at all. No meditative agenda, no spiritual agenda. It's pure exploration, pure contact. The noticing of the thought is the thought. That's pure contact. So whatever thought is moving through, whatever your mind is saying about what I'm talking about or how it references your experience or your life, that exact thought right now, we don't have to push or pull on it. We don't have to take a position in relation to that thought. The only thing that could take a position in relation to that thought would be another thought, essentially. And if another thought arises that seems to have a position, seems to have an orientation, an opinion, then we can instantly find the neutrality when we don't own or disown that thought. Don't push or pull on that thought. Now, as this unfolds, as this proceeds, this exploration of consciousness, which there's no one doing, it's just there. The exploration is the entirety of consciousness. And it's also the feeling of the one or the particular contour in this exact moment of thought. It's seamlessly the limited and the unlimited, the singular and the infinite. And when the singular is the infinite and the particular is the plurality, then we truly know effortlessness. Only then do we truly know effortlessness. This effortlessness, which means not pushing and not pulling on thought. This effortlessness is the catalyst that makes this experience of consciousness rather free, rather blissful. The blissful nature of consciousness, in the way we're talking about, is actually its baseline. We have to work to make it not so blissful. And the work I'm talking about is pushing and pulling, straining against thoughts. You could physically strain the body against an object or a tree or an animal or another person, and it wouldn't require nearly as much effort as we seem to apply when we're straining with our own mind. And the difference is we're straining with ourselves. We're positing a polarity that doesn't exist, which in and of itself requires a lot of energy and effort. Once we create that, then we're actually pushing on both sides of it. So it actually takes a lot of effort and uncomfortable effort to stay polarized within the mind, within thought. But the beauty of this, and what I'm pointing to here, is that that is not the only way to experience thought and consciousness. But to learn this new way, or this new old way, perhaps older than identity itself and the way we experience it, this consciousness probably goes back millions and millions and millions of years. It appears that animals seem to inhabit it. We look into the eyes of an animal, a dog or a cat. We feel love. We feel so much connection. There's an intelligence there. There's a clarity, the beauty, and emptiness, but it's not complicated by this identity nonsense. So when you learn this new way, the way of effortlessness, the way of spontaneity, you're learning an ancient way. My Zen teacher told a really cool short story one time that he was told by his teacher, Robert Aiken Roshi. He's a pretty elderly man at this point. Was in a Hawaii Zendo. And this young surfer guy who was a Zen practitioner came in and sat in Dokusan, which is face-to-face with a teacher in a private interview room. He sat down, he said, "What's new, Roshi?" And Robert Aiken paused and looked at him, leaned forward a bit and said, "I'm not interested in what's new. I'm interested in what's old, what's ancient." So when we take our hands off the wheel with thoughts, we put down our stubborn, arrogant, naive, completely misguided belief that we're in control through imagination. When we set that aside, we're touching something ancient. And it has an ancient wisdom to it. And if you learn to listen and feel where that's pointing you to, right now, right here, then a transmission occurs. You don't need to understand it with thoughts. That would be to miss the point entirely. Your part is done. Your part is not adding. Your part is not wrestling with your own experience, but being humble. Also in Zen, there's this beautiful practice, prostration. It's bowing, but it's not just bowing. It's getting on your knees, leaning forward, putting your hands palm down on the floor. It's totally surrendered position, and putting your forehead down on the floor. If that's not enough, you turn your hands over and lift them up. It's an absolute surrender. It's a physical surrender. That is the symbol for what I'm pointing to. A symbol of this surrender of these ancient, surrender to these ancient voices, which are not a voice in thought, or concepts, or narratives. The voices say, let go. Let go of your agendas, your beliefs, your defenses. They're not helping you. They're keeping the rift in consciousness just alive enough to keep you struggling with yourself. Let them go. And that event, that non-event, occurs now. So all contours of a thought experience, whether it's a visual image in the mind of what seems like your own body or someone else's body, or voices, conversations, memories of conversations, all of these textures and contours can be immediately fully embraced without pushing or pulling, without moving 1 millimeter away from the contours of the wave structures of consciousness emerging from the ocean of consciousness. When you don't make the wave a problem, then you are the wave. And when you are the wave, you are the ocean. And when you are the ocean, there's no you that it is anything or is not anything. Just oceanic being. Oceanic clarity. So we'll sit for a few moments with this oceanic clarity. If any thought arises, we're already there, right to it. No need to add another thought or another thought. No need to push it away, no need to pull it closer. The aperture is already 100% open. Nothing is missed. All thought forms, all movement in consciousness is already the entire ocean. There's nothing apart from it to notice it. The noticing is the entire ocean. The spontaneity is the entire ocean. So we'll take a few minutes with this on our own, and then we'll explore the next space. Now, as we explore some of the sensation textures here, we're not abandoning what we just cultivated. That oceanic experience of consciousness, which of course is right here, that is the framework, or perhaps the context through which we're going to explore the sensations. So if any part of this feels confusing, or you find yourself questioning, or the internal narrative winds back up, just acknowledge that your attention is again in that space, the head space, and open that aperture fully and release the tendency to push and pull on thought. And from that openness, from that non-doing, from that non-thinking, which is just consciousness. Thinking is an activity. Consciousness is an infinite experience. The experience itself is infinite. It has no limitation. So from that, we notice the sensation field of the body, or what we call the body. Wherever your attention is naturally drawn. Could be to the face, jaw. Might be to the neck or chest, hands, pelvis, legs, feet. Wherever your attention's naturally called into this sensation space. We will just accommodate this through non-effort. We'll accommodate by not redirecting anything. We'll simply notice. There's no right sensation here. You might notice something that itches. You might notice something that feels some pain, feels dense. You might notice a spaciousness. You might notice something completely ineffable, not even sure what it is, not even sure where it is. That's okay too. But just as we did when we were approaching consciousness, we're going to set aside agendas and just let our attention find itself with those sensations, wherever and however they appear for you now in this moment. Also, just be aware sometimes there's a bit of a residue about previous practices like this. Maybe in the past you tended to put your attention in a certain part of the body, or a certain part of the body is chronically a problem or painful or whatever. Just notice sometimes that can sneak in a bit here. And if that does, just realize that's another thought. That's in the vast ocean of consciousness. And realize we can't really know how this exact moment is going to be without simply feeling it. So sensations have no past. That's the beauty of sensation. And this is very obvious. Just feel it. Feel what's there. Notice it. Notice that raw sensation. It has no past. It also has no future. It's simply how it appears now. It doesn't matter if it feels pleasant or unpleasant, because in the same way, going to the sensation, the raw data, the raw experience, it doesn't say pleasant or unpleasant. It just is what it is. Now, this gets very subtle, but even prior to our tendency to add a layer of interpretation that says pleasant or unpleasant, prior to that, there is a sort of interpretation, a very subtle one, maybe the most subtle, that says it's there at all. And I'm talking about the direct experience of sensation, like it's there or it isn't. I would suggest that you can even set that aside. You can set aside being or non-being when directly, I don't know even a word for this, considering that sensation. Another way of saying it is like feeling what's there and what's not there at the same time. That can be a little confusing, I suppose, but it is possible. Those sensations, just how they are. They're not in a particular place. They are in a particular way. They're neither existent nor non-existent. They're neither pleasant nor unpleasant. And they don't actually exist on their own. Meaning that the awareness of them, the awareness of sound, the awareness of sensation, the awareness of color, is not apart from the color, the sound, and the sensation. So it doesn't exist on its own side, and you don't exist on your own side. That's how pure the experience of sensation actually is. It doesn't have sides. It doesn't have a position inside reality. And it's also not outside of reality. It's clear as a bell, clear as day. So let's not hinder it by imputing our mental constructs onto it about whether it's something or nothing, or here or not here, pleasant or unpleasant, dense, open, closed, all the labels. Here, we can set them aside, the labels, the interpretations, and just notice what is felt. we don't impose ideas of how it should be, or even how it is right now, then there's just pure zero distance experience. That sensation cloud, it has no past, no history, no agenda, no need, no lack. It's not somewhere else. So it's crystal clear and as intimate as possible because we don't have a relationship with it. There's not a noticer of it. That's too much distance. That's thought. So this luminous nature or radiant nature of the experience just means no distance. It's fullness, absolute fullness. It may be experienced as light, light without a source, light as its own source, not an imagined light, felt, existential light. Light that illuminates the light and the darkness. Light that has no source. Light that can't be filtered out. Light that can't be shadowed. Light that penetrates all apparent form. So as you move through the day, give yourself to this light. The light that's primary to knowing and unknowing, primary to light and darkness, primary to form and formlessness. Let it illuminate everything. Don't try to override it with your specific agendas or concerns. Those agendas and concerns will be there tomorrow if they need to be. For today, just give yourself to all of this.